Good evening and welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, the guests, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. It's not LB, it's LG in the house. How are you, Lisa Graves?
I am. Thanks for inviting me, Greg. I am here, I was here standing in Stephanie's shoes, in LB's shoes, but can't fill them, but I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Thanks for coming on short notice. LB, taken ill, I guess we could say. She's fine, don't worry, but she's not ready to go. So, she's a late scratch, and we put Lisa Graves into the starting lineup. While the banner was going, I thought of a joke. You want to hear my joke?
Yeah.
I just thought of this. I don't know if it's funny. I've never even said it out loud before. Okay. How many ICE officers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Ooh, I do not know the answer to that. I'm afraid of the answer.
Now they're incels. They don't know how to screw. Okay, that's the joke. That's the joke. I don't know. Is it good? It's probably not very good.
Oh dear.
I'm very proud of myself because I did this Cadillac margarita, and I put just a splash of half and half in it, and it gives it this little extra body. And I recommend it.
I toast your souped up margarita with the cream like a creamsicle with my Suntory Tokyo whiskey highball.
Oh, that's a delicious drink.
I highly recommend. It's especially lovely in the summer when it's super hot or humid. But I'm breaking it out tonight in honor of being on the 5-8.
All right, I like to see it. I know what I forgot. I'm gonna have to do the timer because I don't usually do the timer. Do you usually do the timer?
I have a timer, but as you all know, I'm not confident at keeping it.
Right. For those unaware, we try to keep it to 8 minutes, and we often fail. But we like to have it on. I knew I was forgetting something important. No, we don't want 1 hour and 8 minutes. We just want 8 minutes. I think, definitely don't want to go for an hour and 8 minutes.
On the first topic.
Yeah. So, all right. So, shall we dive into the topics here?
Sure. Let's dive in.
You ready to roll? Okay. Oh, I should say beforehand, thank you for having me on Wednesday. And for people who watch the show Wednesday, it's the 5-8.5 with Lisa and with Nadine Smith. And I screwed up and didn't change the little thingy beforehand, so there was no intro music. So Lisa thought the intro music was playing. She's just sitting there, just typing out stuff, completely unaware that she's live on the air. So
that's where I was
my apologies for that. I know what we did wrong, and if I hadn't done the thing, it would have been 5-8 theme music, which is probably would have been better than no theme music.
It was a hard open. It was a cold open. Yeah. But but we've been off for a couple of weeks at the end of the year, and then the first week of January with travels, and so we missed our 5-8.5 Wednesday night crew getting back into the swing of things to get back on the regular with every week. And I'm thrilled to do this twice in 1 week, to have the chance to come on and be on with you tonight, Greg, and with the audience that comes for the Friday night hang.
Friday night hang. It's the Friday night hang. And likewise, it's nice to be, double dip, as they say. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to hit the timer. Well, let's go to the first topic here. So, Ig Nobel.
I mean, really, it's hard to say. Like, it's not taking the Purple Heart. Really does seem like the just bottomlessness of it, given, especially given Trump's track record, his avoidance with the bone spurs of serving his country. But this is sort of, it's pathetic in a similar and yet different way, and also it seems like a little bit of a shakedown. But I understand the opposition leader in Venezuela trying to curry favor, obviously, with her longstanding opposition to Maduro. So there's probably multiple dimensions to her rationale. But honestly, who wants a hand-me-down Nobel Prize? It is so weird. What's next? What other hand-me-down prizes? A hand-me-down Oscar, Does he want to have an
I'm
EGOT?
here for my basketball trophy, damn it.
Yeah.
Basketball trophy.
Yeah.
Can't Trump. We won the title fair and square. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think really it is the EGOT. Maybe he wants an Emmy next, then a Golden Globe, Oscar. The sky's the limit.
It's just, I mean, just when you think things can't get crazier, and just for people that might not be aware, this is Maria Corina Machado, who won the Nobel Peace Prize this year, who is from Venezuela. Trump has been sort of saying, hey, she should give it to me. She should just give me the Peace Prize because I didn't get the Peace Prize. Maybe if I had gotten the Peace Prize and she gave it to me, maybe she'd be president of Venezuela right now. And so she visited the White House. Was it today or yes? I've lost track.
Within the last 24 hours, it appears. Yeah. She
shows up at the White House, gives him her actual medal, which I want to get your thoughts on that too. As a lawyer, Lisa, you maybe have thoughts about how this is a violation of the Emoluments Clause. Not that anybody gives a shit, but it's still a gold medal, right? That's worth, and gold is really high. That just the gold alone in that thing probably worth 20 grand. So, that's not nothing. And then I saw people say online, this is so humiliating for her. And I thought, I disagree. I mean, I think that the takeaway here, she's coming to the United States to give him this bauble.
Yeah.
And she might be given power, absolute power over a country with the world's largest oil reserves as a trade. It's like, this is like the beads for New York City kind of thing, like this. So I don't think it's humiliating for her. I think it's humiliating for him.
Yeah. Right? It's super weird. I mean, I can see her rationale as you've described it. And also, clearly Maduro was not a good guy. He was he was engaged in repression. The allegations last summer, or I guess was it 2024, were that, he stole, that in essence he was out of the Trump sort of cut from the same cloth in terms of, trying to claim election results that weren't true, but staying in power. And that she should be the leader of the country who, won that election. But then you have Trump, saying, letting the vice president stay Maduro's guy, stay in power. So other people who are part of the regime. You have Trump claiming that he has the power to make Marco Rubio the viceroy. And we don't have viceroys. Like that's what a king has, or king or queen, like England and India in full-on colonialism. And then Trump decides that he's the president of Venezuela, in his not truth tweet nonsense. And then, I mean, so it's just all sorts of ridiculousness. But on her part, like, she won the Nobel Prize. She gave the Nobel Prize speech. She got the cash for the Nobel Prize. Like, does she care if she keeps the Nobel Prize, if it ameliorates the irrational, activities of Trump? I mean, it seems like a worthy trade. But then on the sort of ridiculous front, like, I think one of the most ridiculous prizes that's what they're called now, was the crown from, that was given him by I think it was Korea, this completely ridiculous crown. But certainly the one that takes the cake is the FIFA World Peace Prize, which was just absurd. In fact, at one point when Trump goes to pick up the medal to go around his neck, in sort of there's this huge painting at the Louvre, which is Napoleon Bonaparte crowning himself emperor, not having the powers that be, the religious authorities crown him, but he crowns himself. And it was sort of this moment of Trump crowning himself, like putting the ribbon on himself. But when he went to pick it up, it was like the hand from The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. It was very, like, it was so weird. And there's on some level, and I this is gonna be controversial, but like, I feel really sorry for the black hole that exists in Donald Trump that compels this absurd behavior of gathering all these golden items and putting them around the White House, and the demand, this completely narcissistic, just insane delusions of grandeur belief that he should have the Nobel Prize for peace, among other really like eccentric would be a generous way of putting it, but it is so
delusional.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
so but it's also so pathetic and ridiculous, and it's also grifty. It's like, come kiss my ring or kiss my ass, give me, you had some of those tech guys, like there's this glass award that Apple, the guy who now leads Apple after Steve Jobs passed away, gave Trump. Like there's all these, they're plying him with just not garbage, because it has some value, but it's just like the fact that the president of the United States is so debased that this sort of thing, these sort of gifts that he didn't earn, that he doesn't deserve, and that under the law he actually is not supposed to be able to keep, including massive jets, for example. Like it would be so sad and such a tragedy if he weren't also engaged in such belligerence and deadly conduct and destruction. It would just be one of the most pathetic stories ever of this person who is so broken that he requires someone else's Nobel Peace Prize. And in essence, there's some sort of signaling where he demands that before the World Cup be played in the United States, in order to kind of grease the skids on that, he has to get a completely fictional, sort of made up Peace Prize from FIFA, which, like, listen, I'm in favor of culture and art as a basis for peace, like how it can bring the world together to have these amazing sporting events or amazing artistic events. So I mean, I get the peace angle from culture and sports, but FIFA would not have concocted such an award for anyone else, but for Donald Trump and his insatiable ego.
I think it would have concocted something for Putin too, but
possibly.
I agree. The word debase is an interesting word. That's a perfect word to use because, that's a coin term. Yes. Debasing the metal.
Yes.
It means you take the gold or the silver and you just put more and more bullshit into it, so to make it so that it looks silver, but it contains the least amount of silver. And the emperors of old used to do this to try to it was the equivalent, the 2nd century equivalent or 3rd century equivalent of printing too much money. So these hyperinflation situations occur. When Aurelian tried it in ancient Rome, he didn't have the example of Aurelian trying it in ancient Rome. It just doesn't ever work, and Trump seems never to be able to understand any of this stuff. We should also point out, because people were saying in the comments correctly, this Machado woman is not exactly a paragon of peace and enlightenment. She's also kind of a right winger, and I think actually the vice president Darcy is more of a left wing person than she apparently was more of a Chavez supporter than a Maduro supporter. So maybe in the long run we're better off there. Who knows?
Maybe it's hard to know, but the idea, I just don't know that Trump thinks in any long-term sense, except for about putting his name on things, as if we can't rip the name off or chisel it out at some point, because the premise of removing Maduro, although like the buildup was it was all drug running, while meanwhile Trump was pardoning drug runners who had brought hundreds of tons of hundreds, like enormous amounts of cocaine in the United States, and then quickly pivoted to oil. But the premise that he gets to remove people who stay in power after they have lost an election is perhaps a signal that he does not want to send to other countries.
Yeah.
Given his claims that he could possibly not have the midterm elections or not have the 2028 election, or just stay for 3 terms or whatever it is he thinks he can do despite the law. Maybe he should have thought about not setting that precedent for possibly other countries intervening in other nations if they have a president or a leader who stays in power despite the vote.
That's a good point. I think it's cute that you use Trump and think in the same sentence.
I'm gonna drink to that.
Let's drink to that. Now, because I came on your show on Wednesday and I babbled too much about Greenland and didn't even get it out of my system because I had to babble more about Greenland on my thing this morning. I went too long and we didn't get to talk about the Supreme Court, or rather you didn't get to talk about the Supreme Court. So I'm going to hit the timer, and I want to know what it was you were going to talk about, because I don't even, I haven't been following the Supreme Court. I hate them all so much, other than, Paul Singer, who apparently is going to make all this money from Venezuela, basically owning Sam Alito. It's kind of cool. So I know that there's that kind of piece of the news, but what about the Supreme Court should people be paying attention to? What are you seeing now?
Well, really, it's everything, because it's John Roberts who made this disaster possible by giving Donald Trump immunity from criminal prosecution. And I wrote about this over, I think it might have been over the holidays, although who knows, at this point in time has no meaning, about how in that immunity decision that was reckless and counter-constitutional, John Roberts added what we call dicta, just extra language into the opinion, trying to insulate the pardon power. So now we have the most dangerous circumstance where you have a president who has been given unjustifiably given immunity from criminal prosecution, who then John Roberts says, oh, by the way, there's no judicial or legislative oversight over the pardon power, language that Trump seems to have taken to heart. And so you have someone who has pardoned people who were his co-conspirators, people who were trying to help him in essence have the coup on January 6th and stop the peaceful transition of power. The pardon power should not be allowed to be used to pardon your co-conspirators or people who were doing your bidding, engaged in violent, illegal acts. Like that should not be allowed. And I run into, other lawyers over these past couple months, who say things like, but the pardon power is absolute, or, the pardon power can't be reviewed. And I say, why not? Like, why do we accept that assertion? There's no description in the Constitution that says the pardon power is completely beyond review. What the Constitution does say is that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. And yet we have an array of laws that try to set some boundaries, like you can't, famously, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, or your words, if you're engaged in a criminal conspiracy, can be used in the court of law to prove that you were pursuing this criminal conspiracy, unless your name is Donald Trump, because John Roberts tried to say that any words you utter around your so-called official acts can't be used in a court of law to prosecute you. So why should the pardon power be absolute? And in fact, under longstanding U.S. law, under the rules regarding bribery, that's an area where there's been a long time assumption that, of course, a president can commit bribery. There's a case, an old case called the McDonald case, which basically says that you can't be convicted for bribery unless you're getting money for an official act, and a pardon is an official act, which John Roberts tried to say all official acts are immune from any criminal prosecution, basically giving the green light to bribery. But of course, presidents shouldn't be able to engage in bribery. And you have a pardon just in the last 24 or 48 hours by another person who, who's been involved in campaign donations or on his behalf to Trump. There are a whole host of pardons that are just, they seem to be corrupt. There was somebody pardoned that was pardoned once before. Yes.
You should have there should definitely be a limit. One.
Yeah.
That's
one
it.
Pardon.
You get one, that's it. No more, no two
get
out of jail free cards.
Yeah. But we're in some version of hell because of John Roberts, because he concocted this ridiculous notion at the behest of Trump's attorneys that Trump was immune from criminal prosecution, that not only, basically pardoned Trump. So in essence, Roberts is the kingmaker. He's the one who got Trump out of jail. And then it sent a signal to some subset of the American people that Trump did no wrong, that he could do no wrong. And stopped the trial, the legitimate trial based on well-founded evidence, as Jack Smith recently testified behind closed doors, that there was ample evidence for conviction beyond a reasonable doubt of Trump's role, his activities around January 6th, and returned Donald Trump to power, imbued with more power than he had in his first term, and unjustly so. And then you have Trump thanking, sort of profusely thanking Roberts for, so purportedly swearing him in. I call bullshit on that. But we have a president who is wielding the power of the presidency in ways that are deeply damaging. And Roberts has tried to put those actions beyond the scope of criminal prosecution. And and we'll get to this later in the conversation with the killing of Renee Good, you have an administration asserting that not only is the president immune from criminal prosecution, but that these agents have absolute immunity, which is actually not the way the law works in reality. But if you're basically saying the president can pardon you, which he hasn't yet, you can, and if he's telling you, or his agents are telling you, go crack some heads, or, just rough people up, or do whatever you want, or knock down, we are in a situation in which John Roberts, his decision on immunity, combined with the pardon power, poses enormous risk to the liberty of every single person in the United States who is not kissing Trump's ass. And you have just announced today the notion that the U.S. Department of Justice, helmed by two people who have served as Trump's personal lawyers, I don't know if they were paid. They certainly were paid by us until now, Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi, that the Justice Department is absurdly, obscenely, quite frankly, investigating the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota for daring to object to these strong-arm tactics by these agents in a major U.S. city where the agents outnumber the local police force basically 5-1. And so thank you, John Roberts, for wrecking our Constitution and putting our very republic and our peaceful communities at risk from this president and his agents, and the notion that not only can he do no wrong, but he can pardon anyone for any reason at any time, no matter how corrupt, no matter how malevolent, no matter how immoral. And I just fundamentally disagree with every part of those premises, including the notion that we should tolerate in any way this assertion by Roberts and any ancient precedent that supposedly a president can pardon anyone without any review. I think Congress needs to change those rules. We need, obviously, a new president. We need a new Congress. We need a Congress that will make sure that this never, ever happens again.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I mean, I remember when Biden first took over in 2021, I guess that was the year. I'm getting my years mixed up now. I remember Glenn Kirshner talking about this, publicly in a lot of different spaces, to review the pardons. Let's review the pardons. Let's contest the pardons that Trump gave, because they're terrible. They're so corrupt.
Yeah.
I put a whole chapter in Rough Beast about this, because I feel like if most people, 99% of the people in this country, really understood who he pardoned and why, they would object to it, because it's just totally agree. Disgustingly unfair. And you had people being pardoned before they even went to trial, so that the victims never got their day in court. You had people pardoned for stalking, for violent crimes that put people at risk. You had people who got pardoned after people turned evidence against them and they were in jail. The whole thing is ridiculous. But I mean, but is it bribery though? If somebody just pays me $2 million and I give them something, that's not bribery. That's just commerce, Lisa. Come on.
I mean, it's just so radical to believe in just the baseline of morality. But I mean, you're right. I mean, I think most people, and I'm determined to make sure more and more people know exactly how corrupt, how wrong these pardons are, and that, because I think you're right. I think there are certainly some people who nothing anyone says will ever change their view. But I think if people could see more about what's happening with these pardons, they would recognize just how fundamentally corrupt they are and how damaging they are. One of the guys that Trump pardoned, had this like $1.6 billion investment scheme. Ultimately, he was convicted. He was required as part of his conviction to pay restitution to Americans whose investments were lost by this scammer. And Trump pardoned him, and in the process eliminated that requirement to pay restitution. So the guy got away with it and gets to keep all the cash.
They need to make that stop. They need to go to his house and just be like, no, we're not leaving. Something.
Well, I mean, cool. I don't know if there's any other civil suits that could be brought to try to restore that or not because of the reach of the pardon. But this, I mean, it is just
a state crime.
Well, it is just so. I mean, the corruption. Like, I know that it's hard to believe what the times we're living in, and to think, well, telling stories of corruption matters, since it's like, well, there's the ballroom and there's corruption around that, and there's this, and then, like you said, there's Trump's claims about Venezuela. When Chris Murphy came out of that briefing last week on Venezuela, he called it insane and said that there was, basically no actual plan for dealing with the aftermath of what happened, except for that Trump was going to decide the winners and losers of who would get contracts for Venezuelan oil, for that sour crude, that heavy crude, and the money would be offshore. Like everything about it is corrupt, and has the potential. Like, everything's a shakedown. But I still think that a majority of Americans, and even a substantial majority of Americans, if presented with many of these pardons, would say this just stinks. It's not acceptable. We're not going to take it. It has to be fixed. And I think there have to be a number of remedies pursued to repair that damage, among other damage that Trump is doing, but also to repair the damage of this Supreme Court that has been captured by this right-wing faction and is issuing rulings that are in defiance of common sense and the structure of our very Constitution. And, I would like to see hearings about how John Roberts has created this disaster through that terrible, counter-constitutional, I would say unconstitutional edict on immunity that was totally unwarranted, is so reckless, and is causing daily damage to America.
Absolutely. We got to get there. But you know what? I'm pleased to say, Lisa, that this week we have a sponsor.
Oh, yes.
I look forward. We're very excited about it. Very excited about it.
Yes.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Is this a Greenland ad? We're gonna do Greenland golf courses, beach, resorts.
The place to be is Saudi
Greenland.
Arabia.
Pretty sure I saw a samurai.
The place to be is Riyadh.
Put a big golden T in that.
The place to be is
Diarrhea.
The place to be is home.
Especially when you have diarrhea.
Welcome to Trump International Wadi Safar. Private, gated, limited. The hottest ticket in town. Inside these gates, the Trump Mansion.
Where's the gold?
Where winners reside.
Needs more fucking gold. Where's the fucking gold?
The Trump International Golf Club.
Trump already won the championship, by the way.
Championship golf course. 5-star services at Trump International Hotel. With world-class entertainment and fine dining. Exactly as it should be. And beyond that space, room to breathe, clean air, open skies, where you see more stars than neighbors.
Get those fucking kids out of this. Bottle's far, bottle's so far to get a fucking Diet Coke.
You don't come here to get away. You come here because you found your place to be.
That place is Greenland.
Trump International, Wadi Safar Riyadh, the place to be.
My name is Donald Duck, and I adore this message. I'm back to the show. Diarrhea.
Oh my God. I mean, the McRib better be in there. me over the edge.
Chunk, genius, just genius. All hail Chunk. By making that. That is a real ad, by the way. This is a real.
So I was going to ask.
It's a real ad.
Cats.
It's
Wow.
a real. I almost just played it without anything. It's almost self-parody at this point.
Wow.
It's just crazy. So anyway, we've kept our guest waiting long enough.
Yes.
We're eager to have her on. She's a political strategist. She's a producer of America Reads the Mueller Report. She's a longtime Never Trumper. She's a host of a podcast called Politics with Cheri Jacobus, and she is a Cassandra for our times. Cheri Jacobus, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm drinking Frangelico, as you know.
I know.
So I'm
Cheers.
joining you guys. Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
All righty.
Yeah. So I
Let's do
have
this.
questions. I have many questions for you, but first of all, do you have any thoughts on the things that we've talked about thus far?
Well, yeah, I think the pardons, by the way, he people are thinking, why is he doing this? He likes to pardon people who then become a part of his army. And if they are good criminal minds that somehow manage to get billions on their own or hundreds of millions of dollars, those are the people he wants on his team. Just like he's got the Proud Boys as ICE agents. He is pardoning the types of criminals that he would want to run, be in his business. And I think that's essentially what he's doing. He's fielding his team. That's what these pardons are for. Plus they pay him.
Yeah. Either way, he wins. I mean, we all lose. It's just
he's doing what he's always done. He's doing what he's always done.
Yeah.
So we know he's been a lifelong criminal. That's all he's telling us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have said that I think one of his, I would call it a superpower, is that he's like the magnet for the iron filings of the people who are most corrupt or corruptible. It's like walk into a room and it's just like, oh, those are the people that are part of the team. He attracts them. He can spot them. He can manipulate them or use their weakness or,
that's why he's got the cabinet he has. Look at his cabinet. He wants the people who will do anything, who are so corrupt. And he can control them. He understands them. He gets them because he's one of them. And he's basically building his mob operation. He's always behaved like this. We see this, his wanting to invade all these countries. It's basically his version of eminent domain. Remember the little old woman in Atlantic City? She had the house and he wanted her house for the parking garage for his casino. That was basically a money laundering operation because the house always wins. How do you lose money in a casino? Well, you lose money if it's a money laundering operation. Right. But he wanted her house and he just decided to take it. So, he's the same guy he's always been. He just has more to work with now.
Yeah.
Did she get to be president of Venezuela though? Isn't that what happened with the woman with the house? So
he doesn't care who's president of Venezuela. He will control her. She will be his puppet. This is no big deal. He just wanted her to come groveling and to do something, debase herself, so badly that the whole world knew that what she is and that he owns her and he controls her. That's what he likes to do. He likes these people to come crawling to him. He wants to show that, that he can make them do anything. And he does this with his cabinet, and they sit around the table and they go around the table and they say the most unbelievably great things about him that clearly aren't true. It's just so over the top. He likes to show the world that he can make people do these things and say these things for him.
It reminds me of the movie Caligula, where all the people are so afraid of Caligula that they're, oh, great emperor, I will do anything. Would that I would gladly give up my life so that you would feel better. And then Caligula says, Zeus accepts your offer, execute him. Like where's the line to be drawn with with these crazy people?
He knows that. He knows he can make Republicans in Congress do just about anything, but he seems to be backing off. He seems to be a little bit shaky on that. He's doing a lot of things that don't require that should require congressional approval. But he's working. It's a workaround, even though his party has the majority in both houses. He seems to sense that there might be a limit, or he just is basically telling them, you don't matter. You're not going to stand up against me. We all know it. And he likes showing how far he can go. He likes rubbing their noses in it. He doesn't consider anybody an ally, really. He owns them and he controls them. And he wants to show the world that he can make them do anything. I mean, Marco Rubio, my God. I mean, who would want to be that guy, right?
That's on my list. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. So let me skip to that one. What's the deal with him? Do you think? Is it compromat? Is it they know about the phone parties? Is it just he's trying to be powerful? Is it he thought he could control him? Or is he just a Nazi moron? Like what's the deal with Rubio? Because he's the most normal of the people in that room, I think.
Right. It could be compromat, threats to the lives of his children. It could be that Marco Rubio thought that the world and the system and the party let him down and he's going to be like, F you, look, I'll just join this team. He's power hungry. It's hard to tell. I'm not even sure it matters at this point why people do it. I mean, I think we know, like with Lindsey Graham, it's compromat. But a lot of these guys that, ran against it. But here's the other thing. I was a Republican up until 10 years ago. I left the party the day after they nominated Trump. I was an RNC spokesperson. I ran congressional campaigns. I was a member of leadership staff team, but I was always a rhino. I don't recognize the party. We all thought Trump would lose, but I didn't want to be a part of them anymore. If they were even going to accept him as the nominee and then, he's going to lose, we're all going to come together after this. I wanted nothing to do with these people, longtime friends and colleagues, because it was that bad. And you see people jumping on board because they thought it was temporary, put a Band-Aid on it till he's gone. And then they kind of got in deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's hard for me, to remember these people the way I used to know them. But here's the thing. You work in politics long enough, and frankly, this is on both sides. They always say, don't fall in love with the meat when you're running a campaign or working on a campaign. You want to paint them as these wonderful people. But the reality is you have to think what it takes to succeed in politics. There are some people that get into it for the right reasons. You have a lot of people that you don't see on TV all the time, but they're in Congress and they do the hard work. They do the committee work. We don't know their names. I mean, there's 535 of them on Capitol Hill. You can probably only name 10 of them that go out there and showboat, who are just, rank and file members. Sometimes they're just not nice people. They come off like nice people. So if you were to dig into like the career of Marco Rubio, what did he have to do? Who did he have to step on? Who did he have to sell out and sabotage just to get where he is? I mean, I hate to say it, and I don't think I'm revealing any secrets of insiders, but it can leave a bad taste in your mouth sometimes. And you can work for somebody and you're a part of the crew that's building them up, get them reelected, but sometimes you don't like them very much. You know what I mean?
Well,
so we might be seeing what they're really like. They may have always been like this.
Yeah, I looked into Marco Rubio over a decade ago as part of some of the work I was doing with the Center for Media Democracy. And what we and one of our investigative reporters found was that, early on in his political career, Marco Rubio had a charity that appeared sort of out of nowhere and then vanished vanished without where did the money go? He was never charged. There's no criminal investigation, but that was a sort of a surprising beginnings for him at the early stages of his career. And then very quickly, he became very tied into GEO Group, the private prison operation that was, really making moves in Florida. And then you sort of fast forward to now where, it was Rubio supposedly working out the CCOT deal for us to transfer our tax dollars over to El Salvador to that, hellhole, that concentration camp, him trying to pave the way for sending people who were not convicted of crimes, who were not kind of picked up out of it, finishing a sentence to be removed to their home country. Rubio orchestrated that. He's been more than willing to serve Trump. I don't have any confidence that he's the supposedly good guy that people think he was, because I guess he stopped for a drink of water during a State of the Union response speech. And also, this is a man who was on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, SISI. He was the top Republican on that committee for a while. He knows what the rules are.
He was the chair of the committee.
Yeah. When they put out the Senate Intelligence Report on Russian intervention into
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So they do know. I think he just got to the point where he's like, okay, we're losing this thing. I'm still going to be in the game. So I'll just go with, put my finger in the air, see which way the wind is blowing. Is blowing towards Trump. I'm going to get what I can out of this. And so he is he's third in line. So you in the ascendancy to the presidency, you've got the president, the vice president, the speaker of the House. And then I think it's
pro tempore. It's Grassley. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then Secretary of State.
Okay,
Grassley's very old, and Mike Johnson is AI, and I don't think AI is allowed. We're allowed to have an AI guy.
But I mean, I do take that the thirst for power, the hunger for power.
Yeah,
he has demonstrated that he's willing to do anything. And like you said, those cabinet meetings they're so embarrassing to the American country to have this sort of sycophancy on display. And like you said, it's all for Trump, showing that he controls people. I mean, just the other day, he stood up in the middle of the meeting and walked over to look at the window at the ballroom that doesn't exist. Yeah. And they were all like, isn't he so funny? I mean, it is the emperor has no clothes day in and day out, but there are people who are so craven, so desirous of power and proximity to power that they're willing to basically do anything in order to either have power or be proximate to it.
And Trump likes to ferret some of these people out. He has a nose for it. I do believe he's the devil incarnate. I think he knows enough about Marco Rubio. He wants to extrapolate him from the good guy side and kind of expose him. I think that's one reason he does some of this stuff. He takes the obvious ones and puts him in positions of power, like he tried to make Matt Gaetz, the AG, things like this, because then Matt Gaetz will let him get away with everything. But so does Pam Bondi. So he likes to like with Lindsey Graham. I knew Lindsey Graham and worked with him, and he was a freshman House member. Loved the guy. I would help guide him through some hearings. I was communications director for the House Education and Workforce Committee. He was on our committee. So I would help some of the freshman members. I don't recognize him. Remember when Trump gave out his phone number, and so Lindsey Graham did that video where he had the golf club and he took his cell phone and he hit it with a golf club. He was one of the most effective high-profile primary candidates in terms of speaking out against Trump. And then there was that one golf outing, and whatever they have on Lindsey, it was bad. And I don't think it's just, he's gay, because everybody, knew that.
We all know.
At one point before we knew that, I had a friend I was going to fix him up with, one of my sorority sisters. I'm glad I didn't. We thought Lindsey needs a woman, because they were all working so hard as freshman members. And so, that's how far back I go with some of these people. So
she dodged a bullet, let me tell you.
But there's something really, really bad. Just like I do not think that what the Epstein files have on Trump, or what Putin has on Trump, is just a P tape. I do think it's a snuff film. I don't think it's the one we've been hearing about, because the dates don't add up. But I do think it is something where someone died. And I think it probably happened more than once, because once you get a taste for that, you don't do it just once.
Yeah. You've been saying that for a long time. I put it in my piece, by the way. My piece about what could it possibly be. I did quote you. Here's a question I have for you, because you've been, I called you the Cassandra for our times. And what I mean by that is you've been calling out this stuff for years, Cheri, and you're almost always right. Like, I think your percentage of being right about stuff is right up there with anybody's. So my question is, on Tuesday, it's going to be incredibly, it's only 1 year of this shit. It's 1 year of what I call the Trump Redux, which is the second Trump term. Heading into it, you obviously had some idea of what was going to happen. What's something about it that surprised you? What's the most surprising thing about it, or things
about this past year?
Yeah, things that he did or didn't do, or anything.
None of it surprises me. Maybe how quickly it happened. I'm still so surprised that we put up with the Merrick Garland bullshit for so long. I'm so surprised that we believed that. We should have learned our lesson with Mueller. I think Nancy Pelosi made a big mistake by not impeaching Trump over 10 counts of obstruction of justice in the Mueller report. At that point, we didn't have this big MAGA Congress. We had Republicans, but there were still a lot of establishment folks. I think I think there was a really good chance we would have gotten it through the Senate, believe it or not. I think there were enough establishment Republicans at that point who would have been more than happy to have an excuse to get rid of him. Once she blinked on that, Trump knew he could do whatever he wanted. The thing that does surprise me is I thought going into the threat of going in to take over other countries, I did think that was just talk. Maybe because I'm not naive. I was an early victim of Trump's with some terribly frightening things that I couldn't believe that were happening. And if I told people about it, it just sounded nuts. Now everybody gets it. I kind of feel vindicated, and I feel guilty that I feel good about being vindicated because now everybody understands. And I'm thinking of the reporters that wouldn't listen to me. I wasn't important enough. I don't know what it was, but now we know. But I don't think that we could have fully comprehended that an American president would be doing this, demolishing the East Wing, something like that. These are things that surprise me. And I think they surprise Republicans too, because he could have gotten congressional approval, tried to, Republicans in the House. I think he did it because he wanted to show that he didn't need them. He's doing it by surprise, if you will, for a reason. So some of this stuff is still, even though I've had a read on him and the people around him. And remember, some of these people I've known for decades,
right?
And I'm surprised at how they flipped, but they got something out of it, like a Kellyanne Conway, that type of thing. Kellyanne and George, back when he flip-flopped a few times. They followed the Mercer money. They were tied to the Mercer money. And I do know that Trump tried to get her early on, and she stood Corey Lewandowski up at some because she was with Cruz, because that's where the Mercers were. So the Conways were with Ted Cruz. So, I know all of the backstory on this stuff. And I've known these people forever. So what I'm finding out is people even started out as true never Trumpers, got dollar signs in their eyes when somebody found a way to put money in their pocket, and they screwed us over, pocketing money instead of using it to elect Democrats. So some of this stuff, did it surprise me? I think sometimes yes, sometimes I just found it so disappointing because people get to the point where they're like, well, this won't matter, or I deserve to have mine, that type of thing. And the truth is, it was a series of these things. Trump is so evil, and the people around him, and they are so evil that they know how to take people who are pretending to do good things and somehow buy them off, or they find their weak point and they exploit it, and then they own them. And here's the thing, and I've said I don't mean to go on and on about this, but here's the thing about the difference. So that I think it's important that we understand the difference between the people who are on Trump's cabinet and staff and the ones say that work for Fox News, where they have to do this. Well, the people on staff and on his cabinet, he gets people that he already knows have committed crimes or almost done real unethical things, because here's the thing, once he can get them to commit one small crime for him, he owns them. They need a pardon. Right. And that means it's not going to be just one small crime. This is how the mob operates. He can then get them to do anything. Look at a Pam Bondi. So this is what he's doing. The difference is Republicans in Congress, as far as we know, except for those involved in January 6th, Republicans in Congress are weak. I don't think, most of them, I don't think really believe this MAGA stuff, but they had to hitch their wagon to him. They're afraid of him. But they haven't committed crimes for him. They don't need pardons. And so that's where we see some of these splits now. We see some Republicans sounding like they could peel off. Not enough. We're not going to get, 100 Adam Kinzingers and Liz Cheneys, but we're starting to see these breaks, these fissures, and all I'm thinking of is, okay, the Republicans in Congress, they mostly represent Trump, but they haven't committed crimes. They don't need pardons. His cabinet does. Pam Bondi does. And so I don't fully know what that means yet, but I'm paying attention to it because it feels like it's going to mean something down the road.
Yeah, you were saying you thought there was a softening in among certain Republicans on that, which surprised me. We were talking before. Yeah, we were talking before the show, and you came in you sounded very optimistic, Cheri, which made me very happy to hear.
Well, no, I'm not optimistic, but I do see a path, and we don't have many paths, so we don't have a lot of time. So I think it's really important to recognize if you're putting together a strategy, and this is what I do, you have to look at these things. We see Lisa Murkowski a few days ago. She was so angry at Trump, what he's doing to the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And she said publicly, she says, I think it would almost be good if Republicans lost the midterms and Democrats could then fix this. Lisa Murkowski said this. We see Don Bacon, Republican in the House. Now he's turned against Trump in the past, and he says, if he goes into Greenland, that we need to have him impeached. We have 9 senators who have spoken out very, very strongly, vociferously against having anything to do with going into Greenland. I have a list of them here. Now, is this disqualifying? And this is where we don't have a lot of time, because we're going to have, if we have midterms, first of all, Trump will somehow get rid of midterms, or he will cheat. Trump also said that I don't even think we should have elections. So then he said, I wish that we had taken the ballot boxes in 2020, apprehended the ballot boxes. He will do that in 2026 in the midterms. And then he will make sure that he has such a huge Republican majority, cheating, of course, that a few people peeling off aren't going to make a difference. Right now, a few Republicans peeling off is the difference between saving this country and not saving this country. We desperately need this. And a lot of them, if they're willing to really, if all you need is a few, not to retire at the end of this term, but to up and quit now, which means Democrats could have enough votes to make Hakeem Jeffries speaker. And that can make a difference. But at this point, I get frustrated with Democrats saying, we'll just wait till the midterms. We're going to turn out in large numbers. That cannot be our strategy. That is no longer operational. It is hair on fire time. Like it hasn't been for the past decade. But we need the Marjorie Taylor Greens. We need the Don Bacons. We need the Lisa Murkowskis. We need more of them. Venezuela, we almost had two Republicans in the Senate. They got beaten down by Trump. Now, Venezuela is a little different. People are like, oh, Maduro's a bad guy, and they don't care that Trump has taken, $500 million and, ferreted it off to some private account rather than putting it back to the people of Venezuela or in our own treasury. Greenland is different. Going into Greenland might be the thing that does trigger impeachment. And
it's going to be the thing that triggers civil war. It's going to be the thing that triggers the absolute fracturing of the country. I talked about it this morning, but that would be the thing that should make people come forward, because even if they want to continue their grifts, they're going to need us not to go into Greenland if they want things to continue as they are, right?
But if Republicans are talking about impeaching him over it.
Yeah,
that's key. That is key.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, because any strategies that we have that we want to formulate and implement has to happen now. This business about we're going to take care of it in the midterms, again, folks, if you really think, given everything that Trump has done, not just since in this term, but his entire life, do you really think that he's going to sit back and let fair and free midterm elections happen? Come on. We have been so naive about him for so long. We have been so gullible. We're the ones that are responsible for letting this happen. We're the ones that let people tell us, oh, Merrick Garland is just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. We wouldn't even have known about the stolen documents and that they were going in to Mar-a-Lago to get them. I mean, Trump knew because he was watching it through closed circuit, from Bedminster. The only reason we knew that this whole thing was happening is because it was Donald Trump who said, oh, they're raiding Mar-a-Lago. Merrick Garland wasn't even going to tell us about it. We embrace people we shouldn't be embracing. We believe stuff we shouldn't be believing. We demand to be entertained. We pick our heroes. And so we are just as guilty in many ways as MAGA. And that has to stop. It has to stop.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be obstreperous. I have to say I disagree with about half of what you said, Cheri. So I just, but I don't want to argue with you here on this lovely Friday night. It's just I do not believe that some of these Republicans, like when Josh Hawley said he was standing up for Venezuela, come on. Hawley is so part of the problem.
But don't you think Greenland is different?
I do think that's the half I do agree with.
Yeah, I mean, there's 9 Republicans. Look, this Newsweek, there's our 9 Republican senators that so far have spoken out against going into Greenland, American ownership of Greenland, whether they buy it, bribe it, pay everybody $100,000. So There are 9. Now,
Yes.
what I don't
that
know
is
is
a new
what
line.
would they, but what would they do about it? I think that's where they're against it. They're strongly against it. Would they, if they could get the House to impeach him, there's enough Republicans in the House for impeach him. Do we have enough Republicans in the Senate who would indict him? That's the question. Speaking out is different than impeachment. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's. I mean, I do think Greenland is just a totally different line in the sand.
Yeah,
that does change the equation for a lot of people, including some of those Republicans who've been going along with this and just trying to get through it. Although some of them really are, like you said, the window keeps narrowing because there were more of the traditional Republicans a few years ago when Pelosi was the speaker. I mean, those points I really appreciate. And don't even get me started on Merrick Garland not pursuing the investigation. Like there's just, there's definitely blame to go around. I'm not a true believer in like one side versus the other side in that way, but there are, and I really appreciate what you're saying about like organizing now, action now, because you're right. Trump is, he signals what he wants to do or what he is planning on doing. And he now is a Justice Department that is willing to, quote, open an investigation on a sitting governor and a mayor of a blue state and a blue city, claiming that they somehow, purportedly obstructed the ICE activity when all they're doing is trying to speak out in defense of, the state's prerogatives and the state's citizens and the residents. So, all bets are off on what the constraints are. Trump, like you said that one of his regrets was not seizing the machines. So of course that's what he wants to do. And he now has a Justice Department that is so bankrupt of any actual allegiance to the law that it, would go along with this. And so we are in deep, deep trouble in terms of this midterm for a lot of reasons. But the time for action and the time for that bipartisan window, like you said, is now to stop what's happening in Greenland and then build from there.
So it isn't really, there's not that much disagreement. You're just disagreeing that you don't think there's enough Republicans that are going to turn.
No, I mean, I don't want to go line by line.
We've got 9 that have gone against him, but do we know if that was going to result in impeachment? And she's making
we agree on Merrick. We agree on Merrick Garland.
I'll just say, I was on Senate Judiciary Committee when Lindsey Graham moved over from the House to the Senate after trying to impeach Bill Clinton for lying. And I would sit in that Judiciary Committee hearing room and hear Lindsey Graham lie his ass off. He was a very effective liar, a very compelling, folksy sort of, debater. But I don't have, like, Lindsey Graham, I don't think changed in terms of in a lot of ways, except that he was opposing Trump at the beginning. And then he, like you said, it sounds like there was some compromise, some very
there definitely was.
And
I think it was real bad compromise too.
Yeah. So I just like sitting there and seeing some of these members on the right, up close for a number of years. I'm not on they weren't bad before. Just for the record.
That's fine.
But I appreciate your perspective.
There's more agreement here than I initially thought you were going to say when you first came in. So
there is a difference between Venezuela and Greenland. And in Venezuela, there were 2 soft Republicans that then never came through. We lost them. But I think that it's different because they can say, well, Maduro was a bad guy. There's always these reasons. And so it's a matter of where's the line. And it sounds like I'm reading this. There's 9 Republican senators. We've got Don Bacon in the House saying he would vote for this is impeachable. They're talking impeachment. So you only need a few.
I wonder if it got to that point where they could really vote yes and get rid of this guy once and for all, if it would be more even than we thought.
Yeah, well, it's
I think once it starts, don't you think snowball?
Yeah.
Especially when he doesn't even know where he is half the time. Like, what's he going to do? He's like 80 something years old and he stands up and walks to the window to fart and people are like, oh, look at how cute he is.
Well, and JD Vance, is just chomping at the bit. So he'll act like he supports him, but he'll behind the scenes, he'll be getting everybody to try and vote for impeachment.
Right.
Just get
because,
rid of him.
because Peter Thiel wants to do, but JD Vance has it. Does literally anyone like JD Vance? Like
No.
I don't think anyone likes him at all. I think he's the least popular person. I mean, he makes Ted Cruz look like George Clooney or something. It's really,
it's wild.
astonishing.
And I do want to say, Cheri, I so appreciate all the things you've been doing as a never Trumper and your courage and the ways.
No, I'm a Democrat now. I've been a Democrat for the last few years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you.
Rough.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you something, Cheri, because this is something that's driving me fucking nuts. Okay. So you said you called Chuck Schumer the Robert Mueller of Merrick Garland's. And usually I don't like that kind of joke, but that did make me laugh.
Yeah.
That was funny. So this guy, again, I must ask, is he just completely out of touch? Is he just stubborn and stuck?
He's too old. He's out of touch with everything now. Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know what you're going with this. But he cares about New York, and he goes way back with Trump. I mean, our friend Don
Roy
Winslow
Cohn's birthday party at Studio 54.
Yeah, exactly. So he does all that, and it's been almost a year since I wrote a piece for Dame magazine. And it's been endorsed by Mark Cuban and has kind of gone viral and hasn't happened. And we have to have these daily press briefings from the Capitol. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are the ones that can facilitate that. I don't want them to do them, but I laid out how to structure it, how to pay for it. You could assess the different offices. There's a policy and steering committee. If they can't get a room in the basement of the Capitol, they can, some senator can give up their basement hideaway. You need a high profile person like a Pete Buttigieg or, maybe a Tim Ryan who has the gravitas. They'd be a super staffer, kind of like how Elon Musk was to Trump. And there are thousands of reporters in the House and Senate press galleries and the radio, TV news galleries. They feed this stuff. They go over the heads of the national news, although they would cover it. Daily fact-checking press briefings on par with the White House press briefings. You can't do it at the DNC. That wouldn't be the beat of these reporters anymore. They're not going to hike on over there. You do it every day. Yes, it would get covered. And you fact-check this administration, because if we had been doing these, I don't think we'd be where we are right now. We simply wouldn't be. These lies spread around. This is stuff that would be fodder for all the podcasts. We'd all have this stuff. We wouldn't have to wait to go get clips or something. It would be there. The networks would have it. And then all of these, how the House and Senate works with the press there. You'll have one reporter that might cover Congress for 5 radio stations in one state or the state's news services. So this is a way to feed this stuff out there, go over the heads of national news, and it goes everywhere. It would be live streamed. It would be on TV. It would be on C-SPAN. It would be covered. A permanent spot with pool cameras, permanent cameras. I know how to set this up. I could have it set up in 4 days.
Honestly, I think it's a brilliant idea. It's exactly what should be done.
And it ain't happening. Why can't we do something that simple? That's Chuck Schumer. He's standing in the way. And you've got Hakeem Jeffries, who probably thinks, well, I better, kiss the ring of Chuck Schumer because I want him to endorse me when he retires and I want to run for the Senate and, from New York.
Because I'm not going to vote for anybody unless Chuck Schumer tells me to.
Well,
these endorsements are stupid. Who the cares?
Amy Klobuchar, she's got the policy and steering committee. I think she could make this happen. I'm guessing she could sit down with Schumer and say, let's do this. We'll take some of it out of my budget because frankly, I don't even know what that committee does. Our friend Bruce Bartlett is the one that told me, he's the one that suggested that be vehicle or part of the vehicle. When I said we assess the Democratic offices, the leadership offices, it won't cost that much. I would need, you give me Buttigieg, give me 5 staffers. I'm talking like I could go there and do it. I live in DC. I'd be happy to be his number 2 on this stuff. And then you would have all of the Democratic offices feeding you stuff. And there'd be certain things that you'd have to stay away from that are you don't want to be campaign partisan. I mean, I would look at it as a fact-checking briefing. Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries can still do their weekly, well, this is our schedule for the week, blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing.
Keep them away from this.
But I think he's threatened by it.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's threatened by it. I think he also doesn't understand how the new information age works. But can you imagine this daily briefing? Everybody would have it on Twitter and Bluesky and on Facebook. Look at all the warriors out there now. I have friends from high school who I didn't know they were never involved in politics at all. And they're my age, girls that I've known since I was, 14, 15 years old, high school cheerleaders, grandmothers. And they're down there in the town square protesting now. And they're on Facebook taking on people that 9 years ago they weren't taking on, 6 years ago they weren't taking on, but they are now. They understand that there's no cavalry coming to save us. We are the cavalry. They're out there doing it. If they would be watching these briefings, they would be taking these points and immediately going onto their Facebook page to go against the MAGA on there, feeding them the lies. This would be such a valuable thing to do that would cost nothing. Mark Cuban thought it was brilliant. He put that on Facebook and said, "Hey, Pete Buttigieg, how about it? We're on Bluesky here, not Twitter. You can say what you want." And the person to make it happen, all they have to do is give a nod of approval, would be Chuck Schumer, and it would happen. And it ain't happening.
Yeah. It's crazy because it is a good idea. Because also a lot of press are not allowed in the White House press briefing room now.
Yeah,
and it's such a hot ticket to listen to Carolyn Levitt lie. I mean, no one lies like Levitt. Lie like Levitt.
Can you see can you see Buttigieg or even a Tim Wright up against her?
Oh, God. Buttigieg
would be like in the same news. Yeah, and so if he
wants
to run
would destroy her.
Yeah,
he exactly.
Buttigieg is so good at this stuff. Yeah.
And maybe there might be some other, 2028 hopefuls that might be threatened by that. I don't care. Put everybody in the best and strongest spot, or we're not going to have a 2028 there. Let him do his thing. Let Gavin Newsom do his thing. Let Pritzker do his thing. I think that if we do have real elections in 2028 in the primaries, I think for the Democratic primary, it's not going to be, well, what are your ideas for the future and what would you do? I think right now it's going to be, what did you do with whatever power you had when you had it?
Yeah.
And Gavin Newsom, who I was not a fan of, he used every bit of his power. Pritzker is doing a pretty good job. I've got gal pals from high school. We're in our 60s, and I like to say we're like, I should be saying our age, but we're in our 60s and they are out there using whatever little power they have. We're all in our podcast. You're doing your thing. People are protesting. They're voting. They're, if every one of us could change the hearts and minds, or at least beat down one MAGA, or at least get them not to vote if they're confused, we've done our job. I'm looking at Chuck Schumer. And he does not fall in this category of using the power that you have while you have it to save us. He just doesn't. And neither
the wrong man for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the wrong man for the moment. I mean, that's what it is. And thank you for highlighting. And I think all three of us are in agreement about this.
Yes, we are.
The midterms are 10 months from now. He's only been here for a year in the second term. So 10 months from now are the midterms, and then it'll be January of 2027 before they're sworn in. And by the time they get their shit together, it's not going to last that long. It's just not.
No.
At the rate things are going, the wheels are falling off very, very quickly. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, pay attention to the midterms and do everything we can to help the midterms, but to sit back and wait and assume that I think what we need to do is assume that midterms are not going to happen and assume that they're going to be stolen. And
the way to protect we know we can win the midterms if we have free and fair elections. The way to protect we have to protect the midterms now. And that needs to be what our strategy is. And then to start implementing those tactics, to implement that strategy, do the tactics, to execute the tactics, to implement a strategy to protect the midterms. And right now, I think this means we have to have Republicans. Lisa Murkowski said it. Maybe Republicans need to lose in order to save us, and Democrats can clean it up. But again, we don't have the luxury of time waiting until the midterms, because if things go along and we think, well, we'll show them in the midterms, he's not going to allow it to happen. He's not going to allow it to happen.
They've been floating this Insurrection Act thing for a while. He floated it again this week with Minneapolis. He's not going to do it until November. That's when he's going to do it. He'll go into another blue city in November, do the same shit, and then declare Insurrection Act and shut down then that's what's going to happen. I mean, I could,
And yeah,
right?
look,
Am I wrong?
he'll get an ICE agent to claim that.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think he's likely to do it on January 20th to mark the 1-year anniversary of his reascent to power and do that trial balloon. And then if he gets knocked down, he'll do it again because he doesn't care about what the rules are. He'll yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't doing it now doesn't prevent him from doing it then because he'll do whatever he wants.
You're right.
Basically.
And he'll get some ICE agent, which are basically the Proud Boys and the people who were the domestic terrorists of January 6th. He'll get them to jump in front of a car, pretend to be hurt, like Jonathan Ross did, claim that they were injured. Jonathan Ross was injured the way that Trump got shot in the ear. Yeah.
The miracle regrowth of the ear, like a octopus's leg or something, right?
Yeah.
Come on, he got internal bleeding to the torso, Cheri. To the torso.
But then he went home and carried a bunch of boxes from his house to his car. So maybe the injuries happened then. And
to the torso, though.
Yeah.
I have never heard anything ever.
Yeah.
I've never read anything, seen anything, or grokked anything to the torso. It sounds like in Princess Bride where they're like, to the pain, to the torso. Like it's such a preposterous phrasing of it.
Well, they got the idea from Ivana. Remember, Ivana fell down the stairs with a full cup of coffee, and it was injuries to the torso. Even though she had an elevator, but she wasn't using it.
Her friends were very concerned about that, but as LB said, and again, LB, for those of you tuning in late, not here tonight. She's not feeling well. She'll be okay. As LB said on this very program, I mean, Trump dumped her in a hole on the first hole of his golf course and didn't even mow her. That's what
didn't even mow her. Didn't even weed her.
Didn't even weed her. It's just growth out of this.
But he gets that tax break from making it a cemetery.
And the kids are just, Ivanka just does nothing. Ivanka just pretends on her Instagram that everything's just peachy keen.
Yeah,
she has the power to do this. But okay, before we go, because now we're into the thing, and this has been great. I've really enjoyed this talking to you guys tonight. Does anybody have anything else to say about what's happening in Minneapolis? Because right now, things are pretty. It's been brutal. It's been now a week since the murder of Renee Good, and the things that are coming out are obviously the guy just did it. There's no provocation. He just shot her, then said, "Fuck you, bitch," or whatever. And then I think went to have a sandwich and then had a beer and then went to his house and then apparently had internal bleeding in the torso. Maybe when the gun came back and hit him in the chest, after he killed her. But this is,
or maybe he went and got that injury on purpose when they had to put together their strategy. Do not, when it comes to this stuff, never think that, that sounds too far out there, because
no, they're going to cover this shit up.
If there was an injury, then I think he did it to himself after the fact. Someone said, you better act like you were hurt and take care of it, because the video shows that car didn't touch him. So if there's an injury, it was something that he did to himself after the fact.
I didn't even think of that, but no, you're right. But I don't even think.
There's no contemporaneous in the immediate moment after, immediate minutes afterwards, of any credible multiple witness statement about what happened. And internal bleeding is a bruise. Could be a bruise, and it could be a bruise from anything he's done, jamming his hand, like you said, or and then you also look at that video and you can see plainly from his own camera that he changes hands.
Yes.
Pulling the camera in, gets something out of his car. He's already getting ready to unholster the gun before she even moves. But from his own perspective on the camera, she's turning the wheel away from him. And then, of course, we all see him firing with his feet, not in front of the vehicle, and then firing 2 more times, and then walking fine to the car to see that he shot her, as he calls her a fucking bitch, and then walking back to his car to leave the scene.
He thought he is a MAGA man who wanted to put a woman in her place. He didn't like the way she was talking to him. He'll show her.
Yeah.
And then they prevented the ambulance and the doctors from coming. The ICE agents that did that.
Say she lived. Yeah, she lived for a while. They're saying after that.
These people should all be. I don't know why they're not being charged in Minnesota as.
Well, I think it takes a moment because, first of all, they took the car. They didn't do any ballistics.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the FBI is claimed that they had to take the car as part of their quote investigation, which they never. I was so adamant that it fell. I'm on my. Oh no! I'm on my phone tonight because my internet is weak.
Oh, that's funny.
That's a sign I should say we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it.
I needed that. No, but you're right. They didn't, and it's the FBI. Who is the FBI? Is it Kosh Patel in his lady's jacket? I mean which FBI is there? Yeah. I don't believe any of it.
Yeah, you can't take the evidence and say you need to keep the evidence because you're doing an investigation. Oh, by the way, there'll be no investigation. We just want to investigate Renee Good's wife. Right. That evidence needs to go to the state of Minnesota to do their job and pursue the indictment. And there needs to be civil charges. You know, there needs to be a civil complaint as well for the wrongful death. Like, all legal tools need to be used to hold him accountable. And like you said, the other agents who did not render aid and prevented aid from being rendered, they all need to be held responsible, just like the officers who murdered George Floyd, including the one who had his knee on his throat, on his back, and the other guys sitting there helping along the way to murder him. We need to have accountability. We're not going to get it instantly, but there is a hearing next week in the court on, I think it's the 23rd, on the lawsuit that's been filed by Minnesota against this paramilitary force being deployed in.
All right, that's good. Yeah, because it needs to be state stuff. There needs to be state stuff. These people need to be arrested. I was just thinking. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I have one more thing to say though before we leave. But you go ahead.
No, we're not going. I was just going to say that this whole thing about him being injured reminds me of the scene in Caddyshack where Rodney Dangerfield's like, "Oh no, my arm!" Like it's so clearly not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
I
Cheri,
just want to say, just to kind of, close the circle on all of this. Trump is underwater in the polls on all of these big issues. Even with Republicans, certainly, especially with independents, which is a threat to him. Republicans in Congress and the House and Senate need to fear the voters back home more than they fear Trump. The daily press briefings that we're talking about would give the information back there so that the polls would get even worse for Trump. And these Republicans in Congress, looking at their own futures and to the midterms, would start responding to that. And they would then be more likely to, like these 9 senators and House members that oppose what he's talking about in Greenland, they would be more likely to then not just say they oppose it, but to actually impeach him over it. So it is all connected. The daily briefings, getting the proper information out there and hitting it home, hit it every single day would make those polls even worse for Trump, which means that the Republicans in Congress aren't as afraid of him because they're more afraid of people back home that are answering those polls and that are turning against Trump. It is all connected. We need the daily briefings. We must have them.
Yeah,
amen.
I agree.
Amen.
All right. Do we do a drink, Greg? What's the next plan?
So the next plan is first of all, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you're new here, please subscribe. Go check out Cheri's podcast, Politics, Cheri Jacobus. She has a YouTube channel. You should follow that as well.
Yeah, the YouTube channel has the same name. Politics with Cheri Jacobus. As my Patreon podcast.
Claire will put it into the chat so you can see the link. I want to thank Lisa Graves for hanging out and co-hosting on very short notice, and coming on to do the show. And Cheri, it's always great to see you. And I have to say, it did make me feel hopeful to see you feeling kind of hopeful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking for a path. There's a pinprick of life, but it's the only path we have. So
it's the only path we have, but it's still the fact that you still see a path makes me hopeful. And it makes me feel like, Lisa, what?
We're going to get through it. We're going to